Hello everyone and welcome to the show. This is the Series 16 episode number 2 for Sunday the 4th of August 2024. Hello everybody and welcome aboard. It is falling off my chair. It is Sunday the 4th of August. Hello and welcome to this show. It's just after 7 o'clock. You are tuned to Andy's Shed Live. And hello to you, however you're watching, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, or even over on Odyssey there, Odyssey, I think, .com. I never know how to spell it that, you spell it in a weird way. But yeah, it looks like most people who are in the chat are with us on YouTube. Who have we actually got with us today? Let's have a little look. Dominic's here, Keith is here. But it's hard to read this chat sometimes. Wesley is here. Fat Hobbit's here. Dominic, yeah, well, one or two people are here. Yeah. People in the chat are saying that there's something weird going on with the listing on eBay by the looks of it. Another dodgy eBayer out there? Surely not. Yeah. What it says, I think I finally got a 746T after looking for one since Andy got one. Oh yeah, what 746T? Somebody remind me, what is a 746T telephone? I can't remember what it is, a 746T. What does a T stand for? I can't remember. I know we did it it's not that long ago actually, it's only a few months ago, so earlier this year we did it. And I can't actually remember what it was all about that. Yeah, somebody remind me in the chat what it was all about, and we'll try and sort it out. Yeah, there's all sorts on the show today. And remember, if you do want to have a chat about things and that, remember, when we're not on air, there is always the forum that is still there, gpotelephones.proboards.com, if you want to continue the chat there when we are off air. You are very welcome to do that. Right, I've got my screen set up a bit different tonight. I've got my buttons set up a bit differently, so hopefully I won't click the wrong thing so much. What it says, the 746T thing says the plungers are white and retained on the case, and the fixing screw is slotted like a wall phone. Yeah, there was something weird about it. I really can't remember. I remember covering it, but I can't really remember anything else because I've had sleep since then, basically. So yeah, we've got all sorts on to cover tonight. So I do hope you can stick with us. Right, I've had some emails and things in the week. The main one, let me see if I can find it on my phone. I'm just looking at my phone just to remind me. I'm deleting tons and tons of spam as well as I'm doing it, because I get so much spam, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I've had an email this week from a chap called Tony Brumhead. In fact, I've exchanged a couple of emails with him, asking about candlestick phones and how you restore them and stuff like that. And he'd got a plan to restore a candlestick. I'm going to put a light on in here because the lighting's a bit rubbish, isn't it? Do that should make it a bit better. Yeah, Tony had got a candlestick phone, a 150, and he wanted some advice on what to do to clean it up and restore it and that. He was going to polish it all up at that, and I said basically don't do that, Tony, because he's got some of the original blackened finish on the bell box and stuff, and I said don't polish that off, because everybody does that and there's no original ones left anymore. So hopefully he will be heeding my words. But one of the things that I was trying to explain to him was how you can restore wooden bell boxes and lots of wooden things from years ago, when they get scratched and when some of the varnish finish gets knocked off. How you can restore it without refinishing the whole thing. Now, I've done a clock, I've done some telephones and that, but the key thing is the varnish is often shellac. It's not modern varnish, it's stuff called shellac, and it comes out super glossy when you put a new coat of it on. And it's what Singer used to use on their sewing machines. Is shellac. You know the black Singer sewing machines, the cast iron ones. It's what they finish them with, shellac. They put like a black lacquer on, then put shellac over the top to make it all shiny and seal the transfers and things in. So I've got a bit of a Singer sewing machine here. It's the box off one, and you'll see this box has been knocked about and things. You can see that, can't you? You can see how that's been. You can see, look, how that's been all knocked about and damaged and stuff over time. So what I'm wanting to show you today is how you can repair that, because it can be repaired. So I'm going to show you how to repair that today and make it look a lot better. It won't look quite like new, but it will look a lot better. We'll get rid of like big scrokes like this. We'll be able to get rid of those. So for Tony, this is how you do it, Tony. Now he's worried about not having the skill set to do some of the things that we do on here sometimes. But Tony, you do yourself down, mate, because it really is not hard to do this. All you need to do this is methylated spirits. And how about that for a classic bottle from Wilko's? Can you remember when Wilko's was a thing? So all you need to do this is methylated spirits. That really is all you need, and an old rag. My trusty old rag that I've used for loads of things down here. This was a towel once. It's quite good. It's quite a nice soft rag. So all I'm going to do this is put some meths on my rag. Get my rag nice and wet with the meths, and then I'm going to bring it down here. In fact, can I turn that camera around a bit and down a bit, and all I'm going to do is start rubbing. Now, when something is finished in shellac, the beauty of shellac is it's reversible. It's actually the secretions of a thing called a lac bug. So it's this peculiar insect that secretes this goo, basically, wherever it's been. It sort of leaves it on trees and things. People come along in the countries where the lac bug lives, collect the goo, and then they process it. It goes to a factory and it gets processed. And they take all the impurities out of it, like bits of stick out of the forest and stuff like that. And then they melt the shellac stuff down, make it into big sheets of like, and it comes out like very thin very thin glass sheets almost, but slightly coloured, slightly yellowy. And then they break these big sheets up that come out of the factory to make it into like flakes, and they sell it as shellac flakes. You can buy it off eBay and all over the place. You can buy shellac flakes. Now what they do when they put a shellac coating on something is they melt the shellac by putting it in methylated spirits. Dissolve the shellac into the methylated spirits until no more will dissolve into it, and then just paint it on like varnish. But the beauty of shellac as opposed to varnish is, once it's dried, if you get a scrape in it, you get more methylated spirits, you can re-liquefy the shellac and move it around on the surface. So what I'm doing here, where I've got that big gouge down this, what I'm doing is taking the shellac from this side of it and from this side of it, and I can feel it's a bit sticky actually now. Moving that shellac onto my cloth because the meth is melting the shellac, and as I rub, it's moving some of the shellac to where that gouge was as well. So that gouge that was really prominent a few minutes ago, look, you can hardly see it now. And lots of the shellac and the dirt from this has come off on my rag. You see. Now, shellac finish, as I say, it's on Singer sewing machines. It's on Smith's mantle clocks. If you've got an old Smith's mantle clock, they're a shellac finish. And I'm guessing phone cases as well, you know, phone boxes, you know, Belsac number ones and things, I'm guessing they would have been too. So, that is my guess. So all you do, and you can see what I'm doing here, is you just rub it around, look, and it's almost gone. Can you see that? That big scrape, I mean, it's still a little bit lighter, and it actually looks worse on the camera on YouTube than it is in reality. As I look at it in reality, it's pretty much gone. But let's do another one. And where are we going to do? Let's do this bit here. There's a gouge here. Can you see that gouge there? Right, watch. There we go. And it's gone. You see? It's pretty much gone. No sanding or anything. The gouge will never go completely because what there is black in the grain of this. And there isn't any black there where it's been gouged. It'll never go completely, but you will get it a lot better than it was, and it's a kind of good halfway house, because if you go sanding stuff down, totally refinishing things, you destroy a lot of the originality and the age of it. And I like doing this way, because some of the age remains on it. It looks like it's had a life, it's had a history to it, and you see how much better it's getting, just through doing that. And then if I was to put a new coat of shellac over all this, it would blend in and more or less totally disappear. So that is how you repair a shellac finish. I promised I'd show this tonight, so that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing. So go with the grain towards the end, so you push the shellac along the grain. Doesn't matter to start with when you're just liquefying the shellac, but towards the end, go with the grain. And you'll feel it getting sticky, you'll feel it getting hard to rub, and that's because you're pushing that sticky shellac around on the surface. You see? And it suddenly becomes much, 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 much better. There you go, you see the bit I've done compared to the bit I haven't done. Let's continue onwards and see what people are doing in the chat. It looks like Neville's joined us, so has Gambo. Looks like they'll be having trouble with a dodgy eBay seller. I suppose actually, for the amount of stuff I've bought on eBay over the years, I've not actually had that much trouble with eBay sellers or eBay buyers. But when you do have trouble with one, it stands out, because most you don't have any bother with. So when you do get a dodgy one, it is noticeable. That is much better than it was. Much better. And it's not the only thing I've been using meths on this week either. Whereas it says, any allotment progress, Andy? The allotment's been a bit of a pain in the bum at the minute, Wesley. Well, some of the other people on it have been a bit of a pain in the bum. There is an allotment that is run by a church group, or something, some sort of charity church group, and they abandoned this allotment, and it backs onto mine, and they'd abandoned it for ages and ages and ages and ages, and they've suddenly started doing it again. But the people they've got, the volunteers they've got who started doing it, have actually dumped a load of stuff over the boundary onto my patch, which I am not very happy about. So I've been on to the council and that, and we'll see what happens this coming week and that, but I may give up the allotment because I just haven't got time to do it. What with my boat restoration projects and that, and all the other things, and one or two people have asked me if we can make some more escape the sheds as well, and the answer to that is, if I'd got time, yeah. So I'm thinking that after this year I may well give up the allotment in favour of spending that time doing some of the other things, like the escape the shed episodes, possibly try and have a bit more of a push with getting the radio station up and running as well, which is still not up and running. But I still want to get it up and running. But there just aren't enough hours in a week. That's the problem. John is with us. He says, I generally agree regarding eBay, but when it goes wrong, it's a bitter experience. It is, John. You're dead right. I mean, I must have bought hundreds of things, possibly even thousands of things off eBay over the years. You know, I've used eBay for years, and generally, it's a good experience. But probably, you have a problem with probably about 1 in 100, I would say, and then even then it's sometimes not a terrible problem that you have, you know. But in general, eBay, what I like about eBay is a lot of the things that I've bought on eBay, I've bought collection, you know, they've been listed collection only, and I've in going and picking stuff up, I've been to some amazing places and met some amazing people that you would never have got to and meet otherwise. You know, I've seen some amazing collections of telephones and stuff when I've gone and bought telephones from people. And talking of amazing collections of telephones, I'm going to be going to see Andrew in Wales again fairly soon. So if you're watching this, Andrew, I've not forgotten about you. I'm going to be giving you a ring in the next few days to sort something out for a visit. Yeah, you'll be able to see another adventure into Wales to see Andrew, where I went to about a year and a half since I last went to see him. It was a very interesting day out. He's got a really good collection of phones. He's not got lots of phones, but what he has got are all very, very interesting. Right, there we go. Do you think that's got any better? I know it's still not perfect, and like I say, it looks worse actually on the camera than it does here. The camera shows up the imperfections a lot more, but do you think we're winning? Because I do. I definitely think we're winning at that. How's it looking? Better, isn't it? Better. So that's basically what you do, and how you do it, and how you improve them, as it were. And like I say, all it is methylated spirits. And I believe Wilco's actually, I believe they've come back online, a bit like What's It did, you know, a bit like Maplin's did. So I think Wilco's are back online now. Right. Just need to try a trim phone. That's still not working. Are there any trim phone experts out there? I've got this trim phone. It's one of these 10 button things, and it doesn't work, and I've had trouble with these 10 button trim phones before. When you press a key, you've got the dial tone. Then when you press a key, you hear a very faint, fairly high pitched beep, and then it goes dead, and then the next key you press, you don't hear anything, and you don't hear anything again until you hang it up and then lift off again, and then the first key you press, again you get a little bit of a beep, and then it goes dead until you hang it up again. It must be something to do with the keypad. It must be capacitors or something in the keypad, because everything else about the phone works. If I take it off hook and dial using the hook switch, I will dial my other internal phone here and take it off hook and go. You see, it works fine. And if I use that phone and ring this one, see, it rings fine. So it must be something in this keypad unit, but does anybody know? Because I've never got a 10 button trim phone working. They always seem to have failed in the keypad somewhere along the line. So it must be a dodgy capacitor or something, but I'm not sure what. So does anybody know what it is? So yeah. Right, what are folks saying in the chat? Fat Hobbit says about the allotments, I'd get Bolsover DC involved, Andy, if I were you. It's not them, it's not their allotment, it's not Bolsover District Council, it's Old Bolsover Town Council that run that allotment, and I already have got them involved. So watch this space. Wesley says regarding eBay, he says he's not had a great deal of trouble with them, he says, but they're always refunded without any quibble. Yeah, particularly PayPal do. If you buy through PayPal, if I use eBay, I always try and buy through PayPal, because PayPal will refund you. Fat Hobbit says, I love the Escape the Sheds. Although there'll be some new ones, Fat Hobbit. So yeah, there are going to be some new ones. We've got ideas for some new ones. Wesley says, I've got a garage near my allotment and some bell end dumped a load of rubbish behind it. Yep. Yep. That's what happens. Keith says, how do you fit all this into 24 hours, Andy? Quite simple, don't sleep, Keith. That's the answer to it. Don't sleep. I don't fit it all in. Things fall by the wayside every week. So it doesn't all fit in, to be honest with you. Dominic says the phone might need a board swap. It might, Dominic, but what do you swap it to? You swap it to a board out of another trim phone that's equally old and probably equally bad. What I have wondered about doing, the guy, have any of you seen the television show Retro Electro Workshop that aired last year on Yesterday, about the guy in Norwich who mends all old electronic things and that? He's got a business doing it. I found him online, so I've wondered about taking a trim phone to him and saying, "Here, Rob, see if you can fix that, and when you've fixed it, tell me what you've done, because I've got a load of them that have got this problem." Yeah, so I might get the Retro Electro Workshop guy involved, a chap called Rob in Norwich, and see if he can shed any light on it. Dominic says there's a lot more crammed into the 766 than the later DTM F16E02 that used a more compact board. Yeah, there's a bit crammed into it, but it's not massively crammed actually. Dominic says, who was the person who came along to the Sheffield Park escape the shed, Andy? Oh, the one that went wrong. Yes, I didn't realise that was still up there, because it went wrong. Basically, when we did that, it was the Botanical Gardens in Sheffield, and it was a blisteringly hot day, and we did it live. On a phone, and the phone kept overheating. It wasn't the phone I've got now, it was a BlackBerry, and the phone kept overheating and it kept shutting the stream down. But yeah, that was Mariam. Yeah, her name is Mariam, and she's Spanish. In fact, she's gone back to Spain now, but she lived over here for a few years, and she popped up on that's who that was on there. Gambo says, I've no idea of the condition of the phones I won or the camera, as they were in an auction in Edinburgh and there was only one pick available. Right, so you've won something at an auction then, I take it, Gambo. Is that an auction from an auction house, not an eBay auction? Yeah, it's always good when you get a job lot of stuff from an auction in a box or something, because there's something you can absolutely guarantee is that the thing in the bottom of the box that you think is rubbish is the thing that somebody else will want to buy. Yeah, I've bought auction job lots of things because there's been a phone in the box. You know, there'll be a box from a house clearance or something, and it will invariably have in it some old LPs, possibly some 78 records, maybe some cassette tapes, a bit of sort of crockery, a few cups and saucers and things, maybe a few knives and forks. There'll be a telephone in there, maybe a very beaten up alarm clock or something like that, and that'll be put in a lot in an auction. And I've ended up with loads of records that way, loads of records. I really would like to move on to somebody. I'm desperately would love to find somebody who collects 78 records, because I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and they're incredibly heavy as well. Yeah, 78s, because they are actually on shellac, as we've been talking about today. It is pressed shellac with like a black dye in it. That's what they made them out of. And when you get a lot of them together, they're heavy. They're really heavy. But yeah. So yes, that is that. So this phone then doesn't seem to be working, this trim phone. I will show you inside it. I'll show you what's inside it. It's an 8766, according to the bottom of it, what somebody's written on there. And I got this at a little, well, it was a little kind of indoor antiques fair thing that I went to a few weeks ago, and basically what happened at this do was it was more really for dealers. It was a one-day thing on a Sunday, I think it was, and it was basically a place for dealers to go and get rid of stock they've not been able to sell or get rid of and stuff. And although I'm not an antiques dealer these days, I had to go with it a few years ago, but I don't do it now because I just don't have the time. But I thought, I've got one or two bits and pieces I want to get rid of kicking around the house. So I took them and had a stand, and of course there was another person there selling a couple of phones, one of which was this, which was a tenner, as you can see from the tag. So this is what's inside. So this is the offending bit, I think, and really it's only one circuit board, you see, but it has got relays and things in it apparently and stuff. So but yeah, I'm suspect about these blue capacitors. I'm wondering if they are dodgy. And then you've got your two boards that you normally have inside a trim phone anyway. So I'm suspecting it's something on here, but I don't know for certain. So yeah, that's what's inside a trim phone. At least inside this sort of trim phone. Fat Hobbit says live escape the sheds are probably a bit risky. They kind of are, but they're also by far the easiest to do because there's no editing or anything involved. I hate having to sit and do the editing. That really don't enjoy the edit process. I've always been a live person. I've always enjoyed live TV and stuff. I'm the swap shop generation. Live for 3.5 hours on a Saturday morning. Come hell or high water. I grew up with TV shows like Swap Shop and Number 73 and well, Tiswas was around about the same time, but I was good, so I didn't watch Tiswas. And my all-time favourite Saturday morning live programme, because it went wrong every single week, because it was technically risky at the time when they did it. In fact, I don't know how they did it at the time when they did it in the mid-1980s. It ran for kind of half a summer once, half a series, got curtailed by an ITV engineers strike, and the programme was called The Mersey Pirate. And there are a couple of very short clips of it on YouTube. It was fronted by comic Dougie Brown. And it was kind of supposed to be a competitor to things like Swap Shop and that. And it was done live off a Mersey ferry, off the Royal Irish Mersey ferry. Now if you go to Liverpool now, there's a couple of Mersey ferries, one of which is the Royal Irish. I think it's the Royal Irish and the Royal Daffodil. The Royal Iris there is a renamed ferry that's there now. That is not the proper Royal Iris. The proper Royal Iris that the Mersey Pirate was done on was a much bigger boat, and is now sat somewhere in the London area on the Thames, slowly rotting away. Unfortunately, it's kind of been abandoned, but it is still just about hanging in there, and that is the one that they did the Mersey Pirate on in the early 1980s. But yeah, it was a great show. It was a great show, the Mersey Pirate. I wish I could find more of it, because it just always used to go wrong, because it was live, you know, and we didn't have like mobile phone video links then, you know. You didn't have 4G and 5G and all this stuff, you know. Getting a video link back involved big trucks and things, you know, big scanners and OB units and stuff, and they decided they were going to do it off a ferry going across the Mersey. So of course couldn't run any cables, because they had to do it all wirelessly, and the thing was moving, so they couldn't point a narrow focus microwave beam at the boat because it was moving. So how they did it, I have no idea how they did it. If anybody, who would it have been that would have done that out of Liverpool? It had been Granada probably, wouldn't it? Would it have been Granada out of Liverpool? If anybody's around who worked for them anyway, who worked for the TV company that made the Mersey Pirate, I'd love to have a chat with them and find out how they did it, because I've got absolutely no idea at all. Gambo says the things he's got from the auction are a 232, an Ericaphone, Cobra phone, and a Canonet camera. Cool. I hope your Ericaphone, I hope it's a genuine one and not a repro one. I hope it's a proper one with a dial on the bottom. Yeah, they're the worst phones ever made by a country mile. They are. They're a really, really stupid design. Use it and you will cut off the person you are talking to on the other end of the phone. I absolutely guarantee you'll cut them off if you're using Ericaphone. Yeah, they are the stupidest design of phone I've ever seen in my life. Quite cool to look at, but really not practical in any way, shape or form. Dominic says the Blackpool escape the shed was alright, although he says I was on the other end of it. So yeah, the Blackpool one was alright. There were a lot of dead bits in it because we couldn't do. The problem with the Blackpool one that we did with Gambo was that there were a lot of things in it that I wanted to do that when we got there we couldn't do because the weather and the tide times and that all played a bit of a part in it, and there's only certain places in Blackpool you can go with a live camera as well. For instance, you can't go onto North Pier with a live camera. The security people get upset about that. You're not really supposed to go up the tower, but I think they turn a bit of a blind eye to it. Similarly, you're not really supposed to go into Pleasure Beach with it. So you're kind of limited to what you can do live in Blackpool. But plenty of people do blog live from Blackpool. There is a very good channel called A Walk on the Wild Side, where he basically documents life in Blackpool. It's a guy who's lived there all his life, and he documents his life in Blackpool and what goes on in the town, both good and bad. And he's very good, and he often does live streams walking along the prom and that, which is kind of what we did, and I was quite impressed with the quality of what we did. If you go back to the sort of 1950s, the BBC did a programme from Blackpool where they travelled through the lights. I think it was the 1950s. It might have been the very early 60s. But I think it was the late 50s. And for the BBC to do this thing where they went through the lights, they had to have 2 Blackpool trams specially modified. They got 2 withdrawn toast rack trams, very similar to 166, which is now at Cryge. In fact, I believe 166 was one of them. But they got 2 toast rack trams, and built a TV studio on one of them. So they built a big box that was a TV studio with windows in it, and that on one of them, and like a control room on the other one. Coupled them together, and of course the trams run off 550 volts of electric anyway. So that's how they got the electric to run the cameras and things, and drove these 2 trams coupled together up the prom, and that's how they did it in the 1950s. So it took 2 trams specially rebuilt, crammed with equipment, just to do it in low res black and white in 1950 whatever. And here we are in 2024 doing it in high res colour, and the entirety of the equipment folds up and fits in your pocket. So that's how the technology has moved on. But yeah, it was but what was a game changer about the Blackpool one we did was that when we shut the stream down, the stream didn't stop. There was a thing back here. Well, actually, it was at Pleasant Vale. It was at the radio studio. No, it wasn't. It was here. It was here. It's at Pleasant Vale now, but I brought it here that weekend. And so when we shut the stream down, there was a thing that kicked in from here with like a placeholder card with the chat on, until we came back on again, and that was running on a computer here. So what was actually happening when we did that Blackpool live stream, the stream was coming from Blackpool, it was being sent to here, ingested into that computer here, which runs a version of OBS, the software that I'm talking to you through now, but a slightly different version of it. And then OBS was sensing if we were broadcasting live, it then put the live feed out. If we were not broadcasting live, it put up that placeholder card with the live chat on. And that stayed up all day basically. So then from here so the Blackpool stream was sent to here into that computer, and then from here it was sent out to Restream, who then forwarded it on to YouTube, to Facebook Live, to Odyssey, and to all the others. So it really bounced around quite a lot, that signal. It was going here, there and everywhere, and there were quite a few points of potential failure in it, but it didn't fail. It was quite impressive that it worked. So yeah, I'd quite like to do another one, but I'd like to do more. You see, we were immediately double six by the fact that the tide was in when we did that, because what I wanted to do from Ginn Square, I wanted to go out. There's a wreck of a boat that's been there like 150 years that you can see when the tide's out there, and I wanted to walk out to that wreck, and I know we'd have had a phone signal out there because I know all the people who've done it. So I wanted to go out and see that, but we ended up walking down the prom towards town, didn't we? But it was very good. If you've not watched it, look for it. The Big Day Out in Blackpool is what it's called. The Big Day Out in Blackpool. And yeah, and I've not edited it or anything, so there are like hours and hours of this placeholder card, but you just have to go and find the bits where we were live throughout the day on it. But yeah, we'll do something similar in the future. We'll do another one. quite like to go back and do one for the illuminations. I would quite like to do the BBC thing and do the illuminations end to end. Yeah, and redo that. I'd quite like to get the Blackpool Transport people on board so we could redo what the BBC did. And they've got the perfect vehicle for doing it from. They've got an open top balloon tram, what they call Princess Alice number 706. It's the perfect vehicle to do that from. But unfortunately at the minute it's out of service, needing some restoration work doing on it. But when that comes back into service, that would be really good. I have done full end-to-ends of the Blackpool tramway from the top deck of Princess Alice before, when it was 100 years of the Blackpool and Fleetwood tram road. I was in a procession of trams on a very wet day in 1997, was it? Yeah, I think it was 97. On a very wet day, I was in a procession of trams, and I was there at the front of the top deck of Princess Alice, waving to all these people on the promenade, and we did Pleasure Beach all the way up to Fleetwood. And did we do it back as well? I think we did it back as well. Yeah, we did Pleasure Beach, Fleetwood. And it was absolutely tipping it down with the rain. There was about 3 inches of water sloshing about in the top deck of Princess Alice. My feet were wet, everything was wet. I was absolutely soaked to the skin that day. And I was the only person fool enough to be up there at the front, because the stupid thing is there is a bit of a canopy over the middle bit, but I was at the front, so there was no protection at all. But if you see any pictures of the Blackpool and Fleetwood 100-year tram parade, you'll see the open top of the big green and cream open top of Princess Alice. Look closely, because that wet, that dark wet figure at the front of that tram is me. So yeah. Right. Okay. So how are we doing so far? So right, just going to have a look how many stuff's getting on. You see that? There you see. It's much better now. There's no real dings visible in that. Now it's dried. And look at the other side by comparison, with all the scrapes and scratches and things on the top of it. Look. You see. But that side, look, is way better. I mean, there's a light bit there, but I think this is made out of plywood. Actually, it's a bent plywood case, and I think at some point somebody sanded all the sort of patina off it there. And that. So yeah, but yeah, that's how you do it anyway. Right, I'm going to move a few things now. I'm going to move this trim foam for a start before I knock it on the floor. I've got very little space in here. This is my big problem. Not much room to do anything. Can't swing the proverbial cat around in here. I got a couple of 333 phones as well the other day. The 333 is the wall version of a 300 series. Here's one. And I've got a more complete one. This is actually totally complete. Doesn't work. So I took it apart to find out why it didn't work, and discovered that the handset wasn't connected to the phone. So I thought, why is the handset being disconnected inside the phone? So I thought, before I connect it up again, I'm going to do a continuity test on the handset, just to make sure that all the threads in this handset cable are good. And you know something? Of the 3 wires in this handset cable, they are all defective. None of them have continuity to the other end. All defective. And actually, this cable looks quite good. It's not frayed or anything. But what I think's happened, I think it's been damp, and I think the wet has got into it, and I think it's got like a verdigris on the copper threads inside the cable and turned green and destroyed it, because there's no plastic on this. It literally is just the copper cable, like covered in cotton or whatever. It's actually 4. If you ever wondered how they do this, if you've ever looked at this and thought, how do they do that sort of plait? It is actually, although they only use 3 connections, it is actually 4 strands going up it, which I can prove at this end where they're all apart. Look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And what they do is they kind of twist the 2 outer ones over, and then twist the 2 inner ones together, then twist the 2 outer ones over again, and or something like that, and it makes this, which is not a flat plait, it makes this sort of roundish cable. And I can buy this, you know, just single core of this. I can buy a modern version of this, because they use it for like classic car wiring, where you've got your copper core, but on the modern version it's then got a plastic sheath on it, and then just this sort of cotton wrapped over it. So I think that would last better. So I'm planning on getting some of that and trying to make some of these up. So let's hope my macrame skills are up to doing that. But that one is knackered. So yeah, so we didn't get that wall foam going. There's another thing that I want to know as well. I've been trying to do this today. Spent all day messing with this. Viscount phones. How do you open them up? How do you get the top off or the bottom off or whatever you do? I've been trying to do it for hours today and can't do it. I know there's a little screw in there and I've taken that out, but I still can't split it. And I'm scared of doing some damage if I try and prise anything. So how do you get those apart? Somebody tell me. But that is about it, really. That's about all we've been up to today. Wesley says those fork crimps on that cable are not original. That's probably where the problem lies. Yes, Wesley, I agree. That probably is where the problem lies. Particularly if you look at them closely, they've been kind of insulated with sellotape. So what I did was I cut one off. That one, I think. I cut that one and tested down to the actual copper in the end of there. So I got my meter on the actual copper and it still didn't work. So I think it's foobarred, that one. Dominic says, I've seen very late 300 series and very, very early 700 series phones with greave cords. Yeah, they did try it for a while, that. Yeah, it was tried. I don't think it was altogether successful, though. Wesley says, the Viscounts are clipped together. I don't think they were intended to be maintained. I got one apart many years ago, but it was a mission. Right. So basically what you're saying, Wesley, is don't try taking apart the nice green one. Try taking apart one of the more common sort of mushroomy coloured ones that you're not be so bothered if you break it. That's what we've learned from that then. Gambo says, I've sent a pic of my winning lot, the Ericsson Lux Original, but it's covered by the 232 Pyramid. Right, let's have a little look at your picture then. Where can I find it? Hang on now, I've got to get this right now. Right, so we've got to go. Into my email. Talk amongst yourselves a moment while we do this. Get the email working. Right, from Gambo, my auction purchases. Right, now let me see if I can find that now then, Gambo. It's not very big. Go. Right, so you can see the photo. There it is. This is what Gambo has received. There. That took a bit of getting, didn't it? But this is what Gambo's got from the auction. Yeah. Well, you've got a nice 200 series there. Looks like a dial 12 on it. Shame it's not a dial 10. Looks like a dial 12. That It's got one of those modern repro dial labels on it as well. There's a camera. There's the Erica phone behind. Can't tell from that what it is. I mean, what you don't want to find is a push button one, but with the push buttons laid out in a circle to make it look like a dial, because they're the nasty bottom ones. If you've got push buttons laid out in a square, that's kind of okay. They are old ones, like you get old push button trim phones as well as dial trim phones. If the push buttons are in a square, that's okay, but ideally you want one with dial on the bottom. I wonder where that is from, because I'm not sure. I don't think they made ivory ones for the UK market. The colours of them were very limited in the UK. I'm not sure if they did an ivory one for the UK. You could only get 2 or 3 different colours, so that might be one from America or somewhere, which would be rather good. So if it has got a dial on the bottom, look if it's got an MNO on the dial. If it's got MNO with the number 6 as opposed to just M and N, if it's got MNO, then it's an American one. And what's that in the bottom of that blue basket as well, Gambo? It looks like you might have got a little transistor radio or something in the bottom of there. That could be quite good as well. Yeah, could be all right. That you could have done all right there. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what that's like when you actually get it. Dominic says the 200 series was very nice, well put together. Yeah, they are. They're all right. Heavy though. Dominic says nice that the Canonet has got its leather case as well. Wesley says, I think my latest acquisition needs a hole filling with some ABS slurry. Any tips for supporting the rear whilst filling? Yes, don't support the rear. What I do, Wesley, these days with the ABS slurry, have I got any in here? Yeah, I've got a little jar here. Little potted meat jar. These are quite good for keeping it in. I mean, this jar has gone hard again. It's gone rock hard. This was some grey that I had for doing the job, and it's gone rock hard again in the bottom of there. Because what happens is these jars don't seal very well. You know, they don't reseal very well. So what happens is, over time, over a few weeks, the acetone evaporates off, and it leaves you with hard ABS plastic in the bottom of your jar. But just put some more acetone in and leave it for a few days, and occasionally shake it up, and it will liquefy again, so it'll be fine. Now, because the acetone evaporates off, what I've done in the past, and I discovered this by accident, because I made a very wet slurry originally, and like I say, you had to like try and support it and things. What I found was, as the acetone is is evaporating off. It gets to a stage where there's a bit of acetone left in it, and it's kind of halfway between being a liquid and being a solid, and it goes into a state where it's like plasticine. So what I've done when I've done corners on some 706 cases and things, 746 cases, the front corners get sort of knocked off, and what I've done is waited for it to get to this sort of plasticine-y sort of texture, sort of made it into a ball, then applied it to the corner, kind of sculpted it on as to how I want it, then rubbed the face with pure acetone to sort of smooth it off, then let that dry, and that will bridge the gap basically. Then there might be some little air bubbles in it and things, and it might not be quite flat, but if you then sand that down, you've then got something filling the gap, and then you can put a much wetter, more slurry-like layer on the top, because then you have got something supporting it there, you know, just to finish it off. So that's how I did it. I just supported it with like putty sort of consistency, ABS, rather than slurry consistency, ABS. So that's the way I did it. Gumbo says, to be honest, I have no idea what's in the bottom of that blue crate, but more pics will follow when I receive the stuff from the auction. Oh, there could be something good in the bottom of there, eh? Yeah. Yeah, there could be something really good in the bottom of there. The kind of camera will be interesting. The trouble is now with cameras, nobody wants them anymore, because film's not easy to get, and film has never been cheap. And now, because people don't use it much, it's particularly not cheap. But maybe Dominic will be able to tell me this. Have I imagined this? That somebody invented, for 35mm cameras, a thing that went inside instead of the film. It was shaped like a roll of film, and then the bit of film sticking out of it, and you put it inside the camera, and it was actually like the sensors for a digital camera. So you put this thing inside an ordinary film camera, and it converted it to a digital camera. Now, have I imagined that, or is that actually a thing? Fat Hobbit says, I've got to go now, see you next time. Cheers, Fat Hobbit, see you next time. Yeah, so yeah, is that a thing? Can you get like a digital film that you can put into an old film camera to convert it into a digital camera? Or have I just imagined that? Sure, Dominic will tell us in a minute, because if you can get it, Dominic will know. Back to telephones. Also today, found in the bottom of a box here, I've been sorting this out and getting this going. This is one for our American friends. A lovely dial on this. It's from 1980, this phone. Just listen at this dial. Or rather, don't listen to the dial, because it makes hardly any noise at all. I have never seen a smoother dial. It's unbelievable. It's really good. And also, do you remember I had a pink Princess phone where some of the paint was coming off? Well, today, because I had a couple of hours to spare, I've got most of the paint off it now, look, and it's back to being the sort of buff sort of colour. I mean, it's still some on the handset, as you can see. It's still partially pink. But the main body of the phone is back to being the colour it should be, more or less. What did I do? Well, I realised, again, it's back to the methylated spirits, I realised that rubbing alcohol softened the paint. So I thought, I wonder if methylated spirits will as well, because I haven't got any rubbing alcohol today. I've used it all up. So I tried it with methylated spirits and I found it did start lifting the pink paint off. So what I did, I got some kitchen towel, wrapped this phone all up in kitchen towels, or at least that bit of it, didn't do the handset because it's modular, I took the handset off. So I wrapped the base of the phone up in kitchen towels, then I soaked the kitchen towels in methylated spirits, so there's wet methylated spirits touching the phone all over in the kitchen towels. Put the whole lot in a plastic bag and left it for half an hour. And then when I came back to it, the paint just more or less wiped off. So, still got the handset to do, and then got to give it a polish. But then we'll be back in business, and then the next challenge will be making the light work inside it. Because the little RJ connector that goes into that phone with a line cord, the way that American phones work, there's only 2 wires in the line cord, but on that RJ connector there's 4 in it, because 2 of those wires used to go not down the telephone line but to a transformer plugged into a wall that gave you 6.5 volts to light a little light inside the phone. So when it was sat inside on your bedside table at night, that phone, it was lit up. There's a little light inside it, and you can still get the bulbs for it. So I now need a 6.5 volt transformer to wire up to it, and then I'm going to make a fancy cable up so we can get the light to come on. Well, the phone bit of it works, so yeah, want to get the light on. Dominic says about the digital film thing. He said there is something like that, but they were a compromise. As it's a crop sensor. I think it probably means a crap sensor. Buying bulk film and developing it yourself can bring the cost down a lot, but gone are the days when a 24 exposure roll was £3. Yeah, see, I've not used film for years and years and years. I mean, to me, for what I do, there's absolutely no reason to use film anymore. You know, everything, probably for 20 years, every photo that I've took's been digital. And I just don't use film at all. No, I don't. I mean, I can see why some people collect cameras and stuff and want film because they want to use their old cameras, and okay, that's your hobby and things. Carry on. But for people who just want to take photographs, nobody's going to use film anymore, are they? It's just too much hassle. You know, when you used to go on your holiday, and I used to go on a week's holiday to like Devon or Cornwall or somewhere, and I'd probably take about 20 rolls of film in the space of a week while I was on holiday. You know, click, 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 click. And then you got home off your holidays and you want to look at your pictures, and you've got to wait a week for them to go off to Agfa or wherever to be developed. Whereas now you take the picture and you look at the picture straight away when you took it, don't you? Sometimes you even look at it on the screen before you've took it, kind of thing. Yeah, it's a different world. How photography and video has changed, how it's moved on so quickly, it's unbelievable. I just wonder what it's going to do in the next 20 or 30 years, or if it's kind of hit a plateau now and nothing will now change. I wonder if it's now kind of plateaued. Neville says professional photographers still use film. I guess some probably do. I guess it depends what they're doing a bit as well, I suppose. You know, because they have multiple cameras, don't they, professionals? You know, they have one camera for a close-up or another camera for a wide shot, and you know, they normally have a helper with about 10 cameras around their neck, giving them the camera that they want. You know, give me the Nikon next, right? But I suppose it depends what they're doing, and there was a program on TV a few years back. I don't know what happened to it, because it was really good, and it had got the photographer ranking on it, and it was a bit like kind of Great British Bake Off, but they weren't cooking, they were taking photographs, and they were learning to be photographers. The people, and they eliminated a person each week, and that, like they do on things like Bake Off and Sewing Bee and stuff like that. And I think it only ran for about one series, and it was really good. And Rankin was the sort of teaching them, and he was the kind of judge on it as well. And he was not adverse to using digital, and that. I think it depends what a photographer is doing. I think certainly, like newspaper photographers and that, use digital now because it's much faster. You know, they can send it straight from their camera straight to their newspaper office, and boom, it's on the front page within minutes of it being taken. None of this putting the film on a motorbike courier and sending it across London to the lab, and none of that anymore. Dominic says large format cameras are something that digital hasn't supplanted yet. Lots of special effects with tightly lenses that you can't easily do on digital, and the theoretical resolution is still very good. Yeah, I don't know. Depends what resolution you want for things and that. I mean, I've got a reasonably sized smart TV sat in the corner of the room just through there. It's a Samsung smart TV. It's not new. It's probably going on for 10 years old, and it's got Freeview built into it, and I watch your normal TV channels, you know, like BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, and some of the other channels like Dave and Yesterday and Blaze and stuff. And I watched them all in standard definition on that telly, and I then switched to the high def version of the channel. It's not massively different, because the size of the TV, I mean, it's not small, but it's not huge either. It's not one of these that takes up the entire wall of your house like people have these days. It's not crazy big. You know, it's maybe that far across, sort of thing. And it must do some kind of clever computer upscaling in the telly, because the the normal definition looks nearly as good as the high def. The high def is almost too defined, it's almost too sharp, it doesn't look natural because it's so sharp when you go on to the high def. But that's just ordinary high def, you know 1080p, whatever it is. And when they start talking about super high def and 4K and even 8K and that, you don't need it. You're just wasting your disk space and that, storing it, because you don't need it to be that high a resolution. The only time you need it to be that high a resolution is if you can't be bothered to point your camera in the right place and you want to zoom in on part of the picture later, and do your camera work by zooming in post-production. And basically that's just laziness. I think you should have camera operators with the camera on their bloody shoulder, and they should point the camera at what the camera's supposed to be pointed at. All this having locked off cameras and that, I absolutely hate it. I'll tell you somebody who does it. Talk TV, if ever you watch Talk TV's news channel on Freeview, they have just got locked off cameras in the studio, and it'll be in the studio where they've got two people talking to each other, and it'll be split screen, and they'll be it'll be on that person, half will be on that person. And it'll be split screen. It'll just stay that way throughout the entirety of the interview. You don't get any camera movement or anything. You don't get any change scene or anything. It really is lazy production, and that. And I hate it. And I can spot it. I can spot it a mile off when they do it. It's like jump cuts. I think anybody who does a jump cut. There's two things that really wind me up, and a lot of YouTubers do it all the time. One is a jump cut, where something suddenly goes from being here to being here, or disappears entirely, or whatever. Well, you should never do that. If you're going to, let's say you're filming a roundabout going round, it should never suddenly jump. If you've not got a bit of footage of that roundabout for it to be continuous, if you've not got enough footage for it to be continuously going around, if you've only got, like, let's say 30 seconds of footage and you want to show it for like a minute, you shouldn't do 30 seconds and jump back to the beginning and show it for another 30 seconds. What you should do, you should show it for 30 seconds, then have a cutaway to, like, somebody looking at the roundabout or something, or somebody eating some candy floss, and then cut back to that same 30 seconds back again, and then there's no jump cut in it. That's what you should do. But when they do jump cuts, and people on YouTube talking to camera who edit a bit out and then they jump, it's like the max headroom or something, it really winds me up, jump cuts. But there's one thing more than any other that really winds me up that YouTubers do, and even broadcast TV people have started doing it, or started using footage that does it, and it really annoys me. And the brilliant Glove and Boots, which is a kind of puppet show on YouTube, the brilliant Glove and Boots did an episode about this, and it's really funny. Vertical video. People who go out and something happens in front of them, something happens in front of them, and they have the foresight to think, I've got a camera on my phone, I'll film it for Sky News, they think, or I'll film it for the BBC, because there's something newsworthy is happening in front of me, you know. So they get the phone out and they do that and film it in bloody vertical video, knowing full well that every television set in the world is that way on. They do that. They haven't got the intelligence to do that with their phone. It's just that. All right. They haven't got the brains to do that. Words fail me. Words fail me. I'm forever telling people, hold it in landscape, not in portrait. Many years ago, somebody in the photographic archive of the BBC used to have a massive stills archive. I don't know if they still got it or not, but they certainly used to have a massive stills archive, all on 35mm film. And, you know, it was slides, it was slide film. And a guy in the archive said to me, every photo in our archive is that way on. He says, because television sets are that way on. He says, television sets aren't that way on. A photo that way on is no good to us. We want them that way on because that's the way television set is. So yeah, people, turn your cameras around. But like I say, Glove and Boots did a very, very, very funny skit on it. Glove and Boots are brilliant puppets, brought to you from a little company called Bento Box in America, and they've got a channel on YouTube. But if you just do a YouTube search for Glove and Boots vertical video, you'll find it. It's hilarious. But yeah, vertical video. Say no to vertical video. Dominic says large format cameras quite cumbersome compared to a DSLR. It takes me about 20 minutes to take a single photo on a 5" by 4" large format camera, so I only use it on special occasions. Why does it take 20 minutes to take a single photo? You see, a friend of mine called Gary, he does this. He's a bit of a photographer, is Gary, and I've been for many years, and in fairness he takes some very good photos. But you go somewhere with Gary and he's got about 3 cameras around his neck. You can relate, Dominic, I'm sure. You got about 3 cameras around his neck as Gary, and you go and you take a picture of something, and I go with my phone or with one camera or something and go and hold it up and go click and take a picture of it. And Gary's there, he's got a light meter out, and then he's got his camera, and then he's putting some kind of filter on this camera, and then he's cleaning the lens, and then he's thinking, oh, I need to step back a bit, and is it level? And it takes him 10 minutes to take the photo, and by the time he's clicking the blooming button, whatever he was taking the photo of is gone. Absolutely no good at like Formula 1 Grand Prix or anything, you know. God forbid he should ever do the photo finish for a horse race or something like that. You know, you just can't get the end of the horse's tail in the picture if you're lucky. But yeah, it takes so long to take a picture. Yeah, but yeah. You see, my theory is you can take a very long time to take one really good picture, or you can take a very short time to take 100 really mediocre pictures, and there'll be one really good in amongst them. That's my theory. You know, click, 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 and and do it that way. In fact, I've got a little video camera now that I just bought a couple of weeks back. Don't shoot normal high-def video, but when you do a freeze frame on it, it's brilliantly clear. So you can just like clip this camera onto you, film everything that happens around you, and then when you want a still of something that's happened that day, just go through the video, and at any point you pause it, and you've got an absolutely perfect still. Yeah, the camera technology is marching along. It is marching along very, very quickly. But it's good that there are people, like our very own Dominic here, who are into old cameras and that, because in a few years' time, people won't know how to load a film, or certainly won't know how to develop one at that, and it'll be a kind of lost art sort of thing. So it's good that there are people who are keeping it alive. So good on you. But yeah, but for idiots like me, I just use a digital one. And that. But even digital, the technology is moving ahead so quickly, and that. But it's always a trade-off between the quality of the image and the processing power of digital and the storage space of digital, and that. I mean, the other camera on here, these two cameras that are on this desk here, right? This camera and this camera. Guess which is the newest camera of these two? This one or this one? Let's look at the image quality and the quality of the picture. Which one of those do you think is the highest resolution camera? I'll even put the other one up on my face so you can see my face on it. Right, so there's that one and that one. Which of those two cameras, now this one is camera 2 that you're now seeing, and this one is camera 1. So you're camera 1 now, you're on camera 2 now. Which of those two cameras, camera 1 or camera 2, which is the newest, most modern camera, and which is in the highest definition, because they are in different definitions, those two cameras. So again, camera 1 and camera 2. Which is the best camera, would you say? 1 or 2? Huh? Have a game. Have a game. I will give you the answer to it in just a minute. Which is the best one? Dominic says number 2. I would say. Anybody else want to have a go? Which is the best? Which is the best camera? Dominic's voting for number 2, which is this one that you're looking at now. Yeah. Yeah. He's saying that number 2 is the best camera. But what about that one? That's number 1. Yeah, that's camera 1 now that you're on. Now to me, the colours are brighter and more defined on that camera 1. Camera 2, it's all kind of a bit wishy-washy. I would say. That's 1, that's 2. What do you think? You're on camera 2 now. Wesley says 1. 1 is the best camera. Right? Neville says 2. Wesley says 2. Look, oh no, Wesley says it looks washed out on 2. He says it looks better on 1. Well, I'll tell you now. Camera 1 looks fake, says Neville. That's interesting, because you're coming out about a 50-50, and I didn't think you would do. camera 1, which you are looking at now, that is actually a really old 4x3 webcam, and you are only looking at part of the 4x3 image on it. Because it's 4x3 and we're transmitting in 16:9, you're only looking at basically like top 2/3 or top 3/4 of the image. There's a bit at the bottom that you can't see. So actually camera 2, which is that one, is the highest resolution because you're getting the whole image on that. But to me, looking at it here on this screen, that looks washed out, like somebody said, and that one seems to have got a better colour on it to me. So yeah, and also the modern camera, which is this one, I can't focus that one, it's got no focus on it, but the other one, this one, I can focus it manually. And so this is the one that we use normally. I have it pointed down at the desk like that, you see, because it's the only one that I've got about 3 or 4 webcams, but this is the only one I've got where you can manually focus it onto what you want to show and get a decent image on it. You can't do that with the other one. With this camera, you can't do that. The desk will be out of focus. So, yeah. And they're both trust webcams. And this one was more expensive than this one, but I think the one you're looking at now, the cheaper one, to me, I think is a better camera. It's certainly better in the fact you can focus it and stuff. But yeah, and you can't get on now for love nor money. I wish I could get a couple more like it, because like that one. Yeah, right. Anyway, crikey, it is getting on for 9 o'clock. I shall be turning back into a pumpkin again. Right, where are we? Neville says camera 1 looks fake. That's interesting, Neville. That. I shall have a look back at this when it goes out on YouTube and see. It says camera 2, the lighting and focus looks realistic. See, to me it doesn't. It looks all washed out. Maybe it's the way my computer's set up, my monitor's set up. But to me that looks really overexposed to me, that. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? My eyes perceive different things. Right, anyway, I think that is probably about as far as we go for today. A massive thank you once again to everybody for taking part here, and yeah, we've had loads of people in the chat today, far too many to mention in fact, so thanks to everybody for being a part of it again. Most of you are on YouTube. Remember though that we are also broadcasting on Facebook. We're on the Andy's Emporium page on Facebook, and of course we are on Odyssey as well. But if you know of any other platforms you'd like us to broadcast on, add to it, we would be more than happy to do so. Right, just have another quick look at what people are saying on the chat before we go. Neville says the Titanic in colour is on Channel 4 now. Started at 8 but can be caught on Channel 4+1. Titanic in colour. Crikey. I would think it's sort of rusty red, isn't it? Most of them. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, right. Oh, by the way, did anybody watch The Shining the other night? I saw loads of stuff the other night in The Shining that I've never seen before. Yeah, what was it, last week, wasn't it, The Shining was on? I had to sit and watch it. It's one of those movies that when it's on, no matter how many times you've seen it, you do just have to sit and watch it. Yeah. Right, I will let you guys go and watch the Titanic in colour, because I'm starting to think I need a drink. I've been talking for too long. And we will see you back here around about the same time, same place next week for another Andy's Shed Live. But for me, for now, have a fantastic week ahead, whatever you are doing, and we will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, everybody, and bye for now.